Welcome everyone to another episode of Shredding the Gnar. Today I've got a really, really special guest with us, Tre Packard.
Shred and Gnar. Oh yeah!
PangeaSeed founder and also Seawalls, I understand.
Yeah. So I'm Tre Packard. I'm based in the Big Island of Hawaii. And yeah, I'm the founder of PangeaSeed Foundation and the co-creator of the Seawalls Artists for Oceans public art program.
Fantastic. And before we carry on, I just want to give a big thanks to my associates over at Wavescape. And remember, if you enjoy what you're seeing,
hit the like button and subscribe.
Thank you, Tre. Let's kick in. So I need to know this because you're someone who has a great love for the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
I've just got to look at some of the wildly creative tattoos on your arm, ocean life tattoos, and it's a dead giveaway for the fact that your love is for the ocean. Let's rewind and go back to when you were younger and before your journey started. Like, how did you connect with the ocean?
Yeah, I grew up on the coast of California, so I think just by proximity, I didn't have any other choice. And I grew up surfing and skating, and I was really into hip hop and punk rock, and I mean those were kind of the influences for me as a kid.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean for me, like I've never been necessarily a religious person, but the ocean has always kind of been my sanctuary and kind of like temple and opportunity to disconnect and center myself at times when I need it. And I didn't really notice that as a kid. The older I get, of course, the more I do, my relationship with the ocean deepens, with every time I get in it. So I've always had this passion and love for the oceans. I got my scuba certification when I was 16 years old. And yeah, I've kind of gone all the way to getting my dive master, teaching for a little bit, another lifetime ago, and traveling the world mainly for getting in the water. Like since I was a kid, I've always loved sharks. They were kind of like, I guess my gateway drug, for falling in love with the ocean, so to speak. So I think with a lot of little kids, especially boys, it's either kind of sharks or dinosaurs. And I've always been sharks, and I've never really grown out of that. So on a couple of dive trips back in the early 2000s, I started going to locations that were supposed to be rich in shark populations, but when I got there, the sharks were gone, so they'd been overfished, and so started digging deeper into that and found out about what was happening with the shark fin trade around the world. It's estimated that around like 70 to 100 million sharks are killed every year, specifically for their fins for shark fin soup. It's incredibly wasteful. It's very barbaric, and when you take an animal of that importance, over 500 million years of evolution, it's one of the oldest animals on the planet. And you take that away from an ecosystem, it can cause a lot of issues. So diving deeper into that, so to speak, I learned about what was happening with sharks, and I always had a camera with me. And back then, that was kind of the dawning of digital and still, film at the time. So I was taking photos of, where I was traveling and experiencing. And at one point, I was working with some different people that I was friends with, kind of that were based throughout Asia, and got the opportunity to do a couple of assignments focusing on the endangered wildlife trade, specifically marine life, because at that time I was living in Asia, and it was kind of a light bulb moment for me where I realized, how important it is to show the realities of the issues and what's happening out there to marine life, but at the same time, like over time, I started to realize that documenting the death and destruction is important, but at the same time, it's important to give people hope. And fast forward to, I don't know, this would have been like circa 2009, and I uncovered the largest industrial shark finning operation in Asia. And that was a big turning point for me. And
were you living in Asia at the time?
Yeah, at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. So and after that happened, and we worked with a couple of like renowned conservationists to bring them in to document it, and they used their platforms to get it out. It got picked up by international press and kind of went wild. But at that point, I saw it, clicking with people in other countries, but within Japan, where I was based, it didn't make a ripple. So nobody really paid attention to what was happening.
Right.
And at that point, like that kind of like showed me that, it's really challenging to, being a foreigner in a foreign country. It's challenging to kind of like point a finger and tell people, change cultural habits or don't do this and don't do that. And at the same time, that was around the time that the Cove had come out. And that's a movie that won the Academy Award for Best Documentary.
Yes.
Sparked international outrage and compassion for dolphins all over the world. But within the country of Japan, it didn't change anything. It made things worse potentially. That, from my perspective, I feel that that's because there wasn't an olive branch extended. There wasn't conversation going into these communities and saying, "Hey, let's try to solve this problem together." But it was kind of more of kind of like exploitive to some extent. But I do feel that film serves its purpose. It's a great film. Like, I think that's another kind of like gateway drug for people to get into ocean conservation. Like, I've had so many people tell me that they've gotten into conservation because of films like The Cove and Sharkwater and different things like that. So, kind of jumping back a little bit,
But going back,
sure.
Before we carry on, just going back to when you were younger and to your youth, did like you obviously you were in the ocean. Like, what as a younger person, what was the fascination for you with sharks? Did you see them at a local? Where was that first?
My first interaction would have been in Hawaii, actually, on a
Okay.
family vacation. And so like seeing one in the water, I guess my first reaction was kind of like fear, because I think that's what, media kind of pushes on us when it comes to sharks.
Yep.
It was a small shark, just a reef shark. But still, it was my first time to like be kind of like, face to face with one, so to speak. And the shark just took off. It was afraid of me. So that was one of those moments that was kind of like, kind of reprogrammed the way that I thought. Because, I was kind of, under the assumption that they're going to attack you or whatever, and they're dangerous animals and so on. So, just from there, I just kind of, my fascination with them just grew. And it turned from kind of like fear and fascination to love and fascination.
Your curiosity for
sharks.
an animal that you thought was something
has been
completely
victimized
different.
and villainized
for
in the
sure.
media since Jaws, so.
What's your feelings on that? What's your feelings on Jaws?
I think personally it's one of the greatest movies ever created. It's a fantastic story. I mean, from start to finish, it's just a perfect script. But the impact that it's had on, generations of people all around the world has been really, intense. And
The stigma.
Yeah, the stigma around it for sure, because that's what a lot of people know about sharks is from this film. So, if anything, if you could go back in time, just put a disclaimer at the front saying this is fiction. Don't be stupid. Use your head. This does not happen.
Yeah.
So we're not on their menu.
And there's been a few follow-on films that haven't done any more credits.
Oh
to
yeah,
it,
definitely. So there's big money in that. Exploitation, and like everybody loves a good villain. So
So in terms of, because to a degree we'd call you like, is philanthropist the correct terminology, or a conservationist and humanitarian activist?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
but before
Curator.
we get curator,
Yep.
okay, you're all those things, but before you've got to this point in your life, and and you're doing all these great things, what were you doing? Were you always involved? You said you were teaching. Is that what your daytime job was back in the day, or did you have other?
Yeah,
Do you have other background?
Out of university, like I kind of had a desk job, a corporate job, and it was something that just was kind of soul crushing. Great money, but I realized quickly, and I'm glad I did that at an early age, that that's not what's important to me. Travel and experience and connection was more important. That outweighed that, I guess, that kind of security, so to speak. Like I kind of cut those ties, and my sister was living in Asia at the time, and I went over to visit on a trip, and I was just like, I was at a point in my life with like relationships and work and things like that where I was like, wow, I've got nothing to lose. Let's go for it. So went back, packed a bag, and never looked back. So
amazing.
Yeah. So I was in Asia for, I don't know, around 6.5 years. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
and that's kind of
time.
I know it's cliche, but that's kind of where you found yourself essentially.
Yeah.
In terms of like
I
your
would say
dedication
that.
to the ocean.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, I feel like I've always kind of been pulled in this direction, whether I have paid attention to it or not. And I've always said that, PangeaSeed Foundation kind of chose me. I didn't choose it, and I'm just kind of this vessel for it to some extent. I've been, really fortunate to be able to carve out this life where I'm still able to travel and connect people and do great things, inspire communities all around this central, message of protecting oceans. Because, like, I guess to put it in simple terms, without healthy oceans, life on land is impossible. They supply 70% of the oxygen we breathe, regulate climate, provide protein for a huge number of people on our overpopulated planet. If oceans die, we die. So it's that simple. So, but at the same time, a lot of this information's out there in the world. but a lot of people are not tuned into it. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people are looking down at their devices, Black Mirror style. You know, and so that's a major issue.
So let's talk about PangeaSeed, because I
Sure.
think what you've done is there's so many amazing organizations, NPOs out there doing
Yeah,
amazing things.
Definitely.
But I think you've taken a creative spin. You've put a creative spin on drawing people's attention to these critical issues that we need to deal with by combining art and artivism. But PangeaSeed, like, you came up with the name, you devised the whole program.
Yeah. So as I was saying, I was living in Japan at the time, and it was right after I uncovered the shark finning operation up in northern Japan. And I was talking with friends about this issue, and local friends, people that are based in Japan, and like, there's just a big disconnect in terms of like how humanity treats our natural resources. And not everybody, of course. I mean, there's some incredibly compassionate people that, you know, really are pushing for positive change in the country. But so I felt that, you know, as a foreigner in a foreign country, it's not my place to tell people what they can and can't do, you know. I think if you reverse that role, imagine someone coming to America and saying something about like gun control or something like that, or abortion rights, you know, people would lose their shit, unfortunately. Like I felt that, you know, using art as a tool to communicate this issue might, you know, be an opportunity to connect with people. Because at the time, I started looking at different, you know, NGOs and nonprofits, and like, I mean, this was 2010, so we're looking at almost 13 years ago. Like, it felt kind of conservative or militant, and nothing kind of like resonated with me for like how, if I wanted to donate money or spend my time. And I grew up in a family full of artists. My mom is an artist, and she was an art teacher for years. My grandfather was a professional musician, so we were always encouraged to use creativity in our home to problem
And you grew up
solve.
in California, skating. I mean, I got my Tony Elvis on.
Yeah, totally.
And I think we're from a similar sort of timeline when Search for Animal Chin was what we used to put into the...
Definitely. I still have my VHS. Yeah,
Good. Yeah, so I can relate, and it resonates with me, you know, and what you've done is you've taken that street culture, the creativity of your family's history and the heritage, and you've amalgamated it into a project that is ultimately passionate to you, but planet Earth, essentially.
Yeah, definitely. I think you nailed it right there. I mean, like, I think we all kind of, you know, we're products of our environment, and we rely on what we know, and that's what I did. And so I hosted an art show in 2010 that focused specifically on ocean conservation, on shark conservation. And I reached out to around like 50 different artists, and I just incorporated like elements into it that I thought would be fun: music and film and discussion and dance and art. And like, it was a huge success. It was like a sold out event. You know, people were packed in there. And for me, that was kind of like a light bulb moment. It was like, okay, you know, people resonated with this, and, you know, let's see what we can do with it. And at that time, my full-time gig was photography. So, you know, documenting throughout different areas in Asia. And then like at that point, I felt like, you know, I could keep pushing with this and do something special with it. But at the time, like, even today, there's still no blueprint for what we've created. Like, we've created this like on the fly. And when I say we, because there's a team behind this at this point.
Sure.
It just kept growing and growing, and we kept hosting events, and then we were asked to bring it to Europe, and then we were asked to bring it to the U.S. And so at that point, like, I was in a position. This was right after the earthquake in 2011 in Japan, and the issue with Fukushima, and it just didn't feel like a stable place to be living at that time. So my partner at the time, she joined PangeaSeed around 2011. And we ended up getting married, and like, I mean, the organization has brought so much to me over the years. It's crazy. But anyway, we decided to relocate back to the U.S. And we felt that Hawaii was a great location because that puts us like, you know, between the mainland and Asia, so we can get back to Asia quickly if we need to do projects there or whatever we're doing.
And it's not a bad place to live.
Yeah. Hawaii's not a bad place to live at all. Yeah, if you like, you know, endless summers and, you know,
good surf and
exactly. Yeah, gorgeous islands and great food, and that's how I got back to the States. And then from there, we just kind of like focused like the next year on, you know, going through the process of registering as a proper nonprofit. It's a very difficult process in the U.S. There's a lot of legalities that are in place like that for nonprofit status. And so it was a total learning curve for us. So we dug into that, and then we built out a board of directors and advisors and our program areas. And then I went to Sri Lanka around that same time for a project, and we painted a mural in this village where manta rays were being over-harvested and for their gills. And so that was kind of a light bulb moment. It was kind of like, because it started a lot of conversation, and we painted this mural that focused on manta ray conservation. And so for us, that was a light bulb moment. And at that point, like, I was kind of frustrated because, like, in the gallery space, I think galleries are not for everybody. Like, not everybody's going to walk in off the street to a gallery. It can be a very specific type of kind of, like, I guess, clientele. And then when we started incorporating street art, that was kind of like, we kicked the door down. It was just kind of like, holy shit, you can take this directly to a community. This is diplomatic. It's free source.
Uplifting.
It's inspiring. It's educational. You're changing the way that people commute to work, the way that kids go to school every day. So we went back and we played with this model, and in 2014 we launched Seawalls Artists for Oceans, which is our public art program, and we did our first one on a remote island in Mexico, focusing on sustainable tourism around manta rays and whale sharks. It's like one of the largest whale shark aggregations on the planet. And again, like the community outreach, the impact that it had, it was just kind of like transformative, and we kept going down that rabbit hole further and further and further. And so here we are today, 2023, and we crossed the 500 mural mark in 19 countries. In January. Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah, so all ocean advocacy murals. It's the only public art program like this on the planet. And we're incredibly proud of the track record. We've worked with artists, as renowned as like Shepard Fairey, D-Face, Tristan Eaton, Lauren Y.S., to, people that are just doing their first mural. So it's a platform where we want to bring creatives together from all different backgrounds, all different skill sets to help give the oceans a voice.
All the links are down below for the PangeaSeed Foundation and the Seawalls. If you want to get involved, show some love, support them, buy some merch even. Do whatever you need to do, because the money is going to a good place. It's all about social upliftment and drawing attention to the fact that we need to pay a lot more attention on how we treat the oceans and the life in the oceans. So why South Africa? What are you doing here, Tre?
Yeah, so as I was saying, we've taken this program to over 19 countries. We've taken it from the polar bear capital of the world in the subarctic down to the Coral Triangle in Indonesia.
Hold on, you've done a mural in the subarctic?
Yeah, we did 23 murals in the subarctic back in 2016. Where? It's a place called Churchill.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's the polar bear capital of the world. During the height of polar bear season, there are more bears in town than people. And that's one of the things like that I love about this program is that we're able to take it to all these different locations and cultures, and how it really shows the power of art. Mm-hmm. That is a universal language, because we host this project everywhere, and we're dealing with cultural bearers and everything that kind of comes in between, working with cities and communities and individuals and so many different personalities. So it's taught me an incredible, I guess, series of skill sets over the years, and a lot of patience, a lot of trial and error, and a lot of humility over the years. So like when we took it to that location, we were kind of like, like working kind of on the dark side of the moon, so to speak. I think there was maybe one mural up there that was very, very kind of basic. So this was the first time anything like that had been injected into the community. And I'm not doing this on my own. We have a team at this point. Gotcha. It's a well-oiled machine, and there's a lot of unsung heroes on the back end that don't get the opportunity to speak about what they do on the team and stuff. And we wouldn't be here today without that crew. So
big up to the crew. Definitely.
So, and it's an international crew. So it's kind of like an Avengers team. Like anytime we're activating somewhere in the
Avengers.
world. Yeah, totally. Yeah, you reach out to our homies on the team, and are you ready? Are you available? And everybody just kind of cool. Gets together, and we go and do some great work in communities. Yeah, we go send it. Totally.
And that's what you're going to be doing in South Africa.
Yeah. So that's the reason I'm here right now. So I'm working with the great team at Wavescape, and
That's us.
Yeah.
Shani's over there. by
Yep,
the way.
yep.
Shani's
Shani's here. Cool. And yeah, so like kind of what happens like when we do projects is people, reach out to us via, on our websites, or it's an introduction from like mutual friends or something like that. Sometimes governments reach out, businesses or so on. But Shani reached out about, 8 months ago. And so we started, chatting and having some late night calls on both ends, because it's like a 12 hours difference between Hawaii and South Africa. And just kind of exploring like what could potentially be done. And she's been doing some incredible work here in Cape Town with public artwork and advocacy around the oceans as well. So at this point, we're on track to be hosting the festival here in November of this year. So I'm out here right now doing a site visit with Shani and her team, and doing some like specific meetings and just kind of like putting all the pieces together so we're ready to go in November.
Amazing. We can't wait for it to kick off. It's going to be an absolute blast. And how many locations around Cape Town?
We're looking at probably between like 12 to 14 locations. And then with our Seawalls projects, like the murals are the focal point, when they're being painted, but we also incorporate a different series of like outreach opportunities for the community to get involved as well. We do panel discussions and film screenings, beach cleanups, youth workshops, and different stuff like that. So we'll have a whole menu of free events that the public can come and experience. And then, of course, the murals are the main highlight. Working with different scientists and researchers. So for specifically this project in Cape Town, our title sponsor for the project is PangeaSeed Foundation, which are doing some fantastic work all around the world, focusing on shark conservation as well. So working with them, we're going to be having the opportunity to take the artists and the team in advance to learn about the research that they're doing and learn about the work that they're doing in the community, and give them an opportunity to kind of like have a hands-on kind of citizen science experience.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I guess with our public art program, like you'll talk to a lot of artists, and sometimes when they go out on these projects, not ours necessarily, but on mural projects, they're just kind of in a parking lot, for 2 weeks looking at a wall, and then they're on a plane and they're back to the, back home or to the next wall.
Yeah.
But we've always like worked hard to create like a really holistic kind of experience. So, from education to culture, food sustainability, we want to give the artist a really well-rounded experience, because at the end of the day, the artist is a spokesperson for the project. And if they can't, speak, well to the project or to the issue that they're highlighting, we're kind of missing the mark. So we do a lot of work on the back end to make sure that, we're covering all those bases. And when choosing our artists, we try to do a balanced lineup of local, regional, and visiting. We feel it's really important that, on projects like this to highlight, artists that are, in that space locally, regional and internationally. So, it's pretty cool. Sometimes you'll have a project where you have, like a top tier, rock star artist, painting next to an artist who may be doing their first mural. So
that's cool.
Yeah, and it's everybody's coming together for this specific cause around oceans, and donating their time and talent to to help make this happen. So it's a really really unique and beautiful approach to creating public art.
It's a fun process, eh? And I suppose you've fine-tuned it over the years as to to get it as streamlined as what it is now.
Definitely.
I understand we're working with local sponsors Volcom as well, so shout out to Volcom.
Shout out.
We've got to say thank you to Plascon Paints of South Africa, who are going to very kindly be supplying the paints for all the murals.
Yeah, you can't have good murals without good paint. So, yeah.
We've also got to give thanks to the Western Cape Arts and Culture Department, as well as our beloved Anya at the Beach Co-op. She handles all the beautiful beach cleanups, and we had a lot of fun with them for the Wavescape Surf Film and Art Festival.
Oh, that's
recently
great.
Finished.
Yeah, so for each one of our projects, we create like a visual identity. Like I've always loved like gig posters and like alternative film posters and stuff over the years. So like for each of our projects, we create like a visual identity. And so like if you go on our website, seawalls.org, you can go to the top of the page and there's a button that says activations, and you can see like 30-something, posters from around the world for these projects. So it's really cool to look back on that, and each one has its own identity. But for this project, Seawalls Cape Town, we worked with an artist named Manev from Studio Moody. And so it's a beautiful poster. And we're really excited to debut that very soon. We're going to make the official announcement for the project on World Oceans Day, June 8th. So stay tuned for that.
Cool.
Yeah, and
We
if
look
you're
forward to it.
anybody in the community that that is interested to participate or support or volunteer, definitely reach out to us. You can go to the seawalls.org website and send us a message there. We're also very active on social at seawalls.org, or excuse me, at seawalls_ and at PangeaSeed.
I'll have these all come up here.
Cool.
All the links will come up. Just click them and go show them some love.
Yeah,
Hit the follow, hit the like, and let's get involved if you're in Cape Town.
Yeah, for sure. Other ways that people can support PangeaSeed Foundation and the Seawalls Artists for Oceans program are via our web store, and that's at shop.pangeaseed.org. We work with artists from all around the world to create limited edition art prints, fine art prints that focus on specific ocean environmental issues as well. Artists like Shepard Fairey, Tristan Eaton, Nichos, Cryptic, just some incredible artists, and we do these like beautiful limited editions. Usually we do a drop like at least twice a month. But yeah, proceeds from that go directly back to support what we do and the artists that support our efforts. So that's a great way to purchase a beautiful piece of artwork that has a great story behind it, put it on your wall, keep the conversation going, and support a great organization.
All the links are below. Those decks, I saw those skate decks. They were absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful.
The latest one,
Yeah.
with Jim Phillips?
Yes.
Yeah. So they, people say, be careful about meeting your heroes. And this was like an opposite of that. So like when I first started PangeaSeed Foundation, again, like, I grew up skating. I have such a love for that era of, skating in the mid to late 80s and into the early 90s. And for me, like I learned about art and fell in love with art through skateboarding and through, album covers and things like that. So skate decks, were so inspiring to me. And so when I started PangeaSeed Foundation, like I just was, throwing some Hail Marys out there, and like I randomly reached out to Jim Phillips Sr., who's kind of like the godfather of surf and skate graphics. Anybody that's familiar with Santa Cruz, he did the dot. He did, decks for, everyone from like Jeff Kindle to, Christian Hosoi and kind of everybody in between, like all the gods from that era, iconic, just absolutely iconic images and graphics. So reached out to him and we got along really well. He's a big shark lover. He's a big surfer. And yeah, we've been kind of like pen pals and hanging out kind of ever since. So recently, 2022, we did a large scale seawalls project in Santa Cruz. And that was kind of a bucket list location to bring the project to. And through that, we worked with Jim Sr.'s son, Jimbo, who's an incredible graphic designer as well, keeping that family tradition going. And Jimbo painted a gorgeous large-scale mural for us that focused on plastic pollution. And Jim's classic like beach cleanup image, the pack your trash. Do you know that one? Mm-hmm. It's the guy on the beach that's like kicking a can and he's got a sign. But so his son did kind of a riff on that, and it's a beautiful piece. And Jim came out. Jim hasn't been in the best health over the past several years, so he doesn't get out that often anymore. But he came out for that and visited Jim and sent me some photos of it. So it was really special to see.
Very cool.
Yeah, Jim, acknowledging the mural and stuff. And yeah, like I said, we've kind of become pen pals. And like, he'll send me like newspaper clippings of like, shark sightings and stuff like that in Santa Cruz and stuff. And yeah, we send him like goodies from Hawaii, macadamia nuts and, pancake mix and stuff like that from Hawaii. And like, yeah, he's amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah, he's everything you could want him to be and more.
So shout out to you, dude.
Shout out to Jim Phillips Sr.
Yeah, Instagram's an amazing space.
The Screaming Hand.
Oh, the Screaming Hand. Santa Cruz, Screaming Hand.
Yeah, it's probably one of his most iconic images. Yeah.
Insane. Instagram's an amazing place, I chat often now to Debbie Fletcher, Herbie's wife.
Yeah.
And she's such an amazing woman, I had a sort of like a Zoom podcast with her.
Yeah.
And she's just this like wealth of knowledge, and surf history and heritage, and her sons are Wildcats, and obviously her grandson Grayson is just an insane skater.
Yeah, it's amazing the connections you can make like that. Yeah, I randomly reached out to Christian Hosoi last year, and so we've been going back and forth. And
really?
Yeah, we're working on a project together. We're still in the dawning of it, but we've got some good ideas going, so be on the lookout for that. So
can't wait.
Yeah.
And the dude that was here before you from Humanity Stoked, Michael Cohen, he was like, oh yeah, Tony Alva wanted to come on this trip with me, but like he just couldn't for some reason. And I was just like, no, really. I was really crying to my pillow for that one.
I got another one for you. Our one of our last major Seawalls projects was on kind of a suburb of San Francisco.
Okay.
And I reached out to Tommy Guerrero. And he was kind enough to reply, and we collaborated. And so for the closing event of the festival, his band played. And yeah, that was just phenomenal. I've been such a big fan of like Tommy skating, of course, but his music as well for the past 20 years. And yeah, he's another one that it was like, you know, he was just better than anything you could have expected.
1,000 times over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people within that space, you know, like that surf and skate scene, especially from our generation, you know, I mean, there's an engraved love for the oceans, for, you know, creativity and bringing people together for the right reasons. Yeah.
Brilliant. I think we'll end off on that note. Thank you very, very much for this cool conversation. And being able
likewise.
to,
It's been a pleasure.
Get to hear the story about PangeaSeed and also Seawalls and the connection with Wavescape, and how everybody can get involved is by clicking these links below. And I think that's a wrap. Boom.
Thank you.
Oh, I got one. This is a new one.
What's that? Oh,
Jellyfish.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Or it could be like a little squid or something.
A little squid.
Little squishy.
Maybe a little squid.
Yeah.
Do you know this one? Snail.